Okay, this is the Falcon and the Dove. I am the Falcon.
And I am the Dove.
Welcome to our podcast, where we ask the question this week, what in the world is going on? It's that kind of week. And I'll explain to you why I'm having that kind of week.
It's been a freaky week.
It's been a freaky week. There were actually stories on the news that made me so sick to my stomach I couldn't watch the news. And that rarely happens even today in our bombastic news where we're being desensitized to all sorts of things. But it was a particularly bad time here in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I'll explain why. This week, there were two separate instances where children, one was kidnapped after his grandmother was beat up in a parking lot, and the other was a child who just suffered immensely. And I don't even want to go into it, but I'm going into it to make a point. This child was 23 months old. Beautiful little girl. Her dad apparently is alleged to he has apparently made statements to the effect that the child was up late at night and the father wanted her to go to bed and she wouldn't. Not like he would go and put her to bed, but she wouldn't go to bed, and he said he hit her in the chest and knocked her backwards, and her head hit the floor, and apparently this left her in some form of unconsciousness. He wrapped her up in a blanket wearing only a sweater and a diaper, and took her outside on the coldest weekend, on the coldest night of the weekend that it had been in 2 years in this town, in sub-freezing temperatures, and left this kid in the woods, who apparently regained consciousness, wandered the woods, and succumbed to hypothermia. I cannot think of anything more hideous for a child to suffer than having a parent do something so unforgivable, and this child to succumb to this. What makes this circumstance even more insane is that there was apparently a tremendous amount of hesitation on when and at what point to issue an Amber Alert and to go looking for this child. Now, to be fair, because of the series of incredibly stupid events, by the time they started looking for the child, by the time that the sibling reported the child was missing, the child had probably already succumbed. But the fact is that even after that, there was another 4-hour delay. Here's where I'm having a problem. This week, Anna Nicole Smith passed away. Horrible, horrible thing. 39-year-old woman. She died apparently at 1:38 p.m. in Orlando.
Yeah, it was in Florida at a hotel. At
a hotel, Broward County, because the coroner there is the coroner who used to be the coroner here in southwestern Pennsylvania, Joshua Purpur. And at 4:38 in the afternoon, they had a press conference. 3 hours later, nobody started looking for this child in terms of issuing Amber Alerts, letting people know to go and look for her, coordinating things, because they were spending an awful lot of time apparently determining whether or not it met the Amber Alert standards. Here's my point. After having had 2 cases this week, one turned out well. The little boy who was taken after his grandmother was apparently assaulted, he's okay.
They found him at the end of the day.
He's
safe and sound.
Returned. The father did not want to hurt him. He simply wanted to see him, but unfortunately he beat his grandmother down to do it in front of the kid. But he's okay. The kid's fine. But there was a delay there as well. People were able to call a news conference over what happened in the mysterious death of Anna Nicole Smith faster than we can issue an Amber Alert in Pennsylvania. And I'm kind of wondering why that is. I don't understand why it takes so long to make a determination of whether or not the factors are met in an Amber Alert to issue an Amber Alert. And I understand its resources and all that stuff, and you want to make sure that you don't need... You know what? If there's a child missing, this is why this is in place. I want you to go out and look for that kid. I'm a mother. I am a taxpayer, and I am willing to pay whatever it takes. If there is a child whom you think is in danger, I don't care if it's a false alarm. I want you to polarize every agency you can.
Right, because that child might be able to be saved.
Exactly.
To be saved. And Nicole Smith, she had already passed, even though it was, so sudden, and that there was definitely some questions around that. With a child, that there shouldn't be any question really. If they go missing, then you should go out and search for it. I know they say that putting on an Amber Alert is not as simple as turning on a switch. I understand that. However, you need to issue it in order to
save children.
To save children.
That's what it's there for. That's what it's there for, to save children. If it is clear,
it shouldn't take that long to do it.
The first hour of this kid being missing and this being reported, that you can't put your hands on that kid in that home. Every single authority that needs to be contacted should be contacted, and people on the street need to be looking for this child. In the second case, where the guy didn't want to hurt his son, but happened to still be in the region, by the time the Amber Alert was issued, he could have been in Canada. So we need to do something here.
You can go pretty far in 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, you could go a long way. We are supposed to be protecting our children, and we need to do whatever it takes to do that. One group of authority can certainly take care of the questioning and interrogating and anything else that needs to be done, while another group is coalescing forces to go out and search in a timely manner and in a lucid way, a lucid procedure, not just checking buildings if this is an urban area, but also checking wooded areas, because clearly this kid went missing at a certain point where people failed to check the woods 300 yards away from where she lived.
Exactly.
They didn't see her for 24 hours. Her little footprints were in the snow. It's just devastating. I can barely speak it. It's just so heart-wrenching. And you wonder what this child's last moments must have been like. And you hope there was an angel watching over her and that she did not suffer. But I am saying, as a mother and a taxpayer in this state, in this country, that we've put laws in place to protect children. And we need to enact those things when it is clear. And I mean, not a lot of hemming and hawing around. I ask any taxpayer, I'm sure they will say to you, hey, whatever it takes, recover the children. Whatever it takes. It is so important, particularly with young children, to be very proactive in the first minutes, forget about hours, after a child is reported missing. And I would be happy, along with my, and I talked to so many parents this week. I said, whatever it takes. But the key is to keep our children safe. And if children have fallen victim to crime, that they be found quickly and perhaps their lives be saved. And that is the Falcon's rant for the week. I had to make my rant because I couldn't understand how we could get an adult's case together in Florida on a mysterious death and have all those forces coalesced so quickly that they were able to call a news conference in 3 hours, and we couldn't get an Amber Alert set up here. And it's a tragic, tragic week of death and missing, and in one case, a blessing where the child was all right and returned to his mom. And, hopefully that situation will find a better resolve where they can all sit down and talk like adults and figure out a way for mothers and fathers to get along and see each other's children without there being tremendous drama. But we also certainly understand that there are cases, like the other case, where the father clearly had some sort of snap and went back to bed, put his child in the woods in a blanket, and turned around and went back to bed, and this child wandered the woods. And that just cannot be. We have to become better responders. We have put in place these things to make things better for our children. And now we just need to follow through. We just need to do that. Okay, I'm done with my rant. We just came back from a screening of a film. Isn't it Darwin's birthday or something like that?
I'm not sure, but it's they were having a Darwin Day at the Carnegie Science Center in downtown Pittsburgh. It's only one day. They just started it, and they plan to do it every year now. And the feature of Darwin Day was a documentary called A Flock of Dodos. And it sounds funny at first, but it's actually a lighthearted documentary on a
discussion.
A controversy.
Discussion. Is it a controversy or is it a discussion?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of the film, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. It's about evolution versus intelligent design, and it weighs both sides of the issue. Although the filmmaker personally believes in evolution, but weighs both sides and interviews a lot of people. And this may have been his first film. We're not sure, but he went to Harvard University. I can't remember his name right now.
He went to Kansas University. Mr. Ryan. His last name is Ryan. Right. He used to be a scientist. He kind of walked away from that to do independent filmmaking. And this was, a lighthearted, entertaining film, but about a discussion of evolutionism versus other constructs, but in particular, intelligent design. And what was interesting to me about this film, and Dove and I were discussing this, we'll admit, over pizza.
Over pizza afterwards, yes.
That, I guess what gets me is that we always have these discussions of us and them. First of all, this discussion was kind of narrow because it was involving very specific incidences, particularly in Kansas, concerning whether or not intelligent design should be taught in the schools and all that stuff. I tend to not like to look at situations as us and them. I like to think of situations as we. And I think if we think as we take some of that animosity out of it. And I know, there's some really, there are big heads involved, and I don't mean that in an egotistical fashion, but big heads, big knowledge, big things involved when we talk about, well, we're talking about evolution and Darwinism, or we're talking about intelligent design, and we have a lot of people sit around with lots of very large words, very expensive words, and say very wonderful things about each position that they should hold. And what it really comes down to is, what can we get away with teaching in school? We can get away teaching science. And why does it have to be this derisiveness about looking at theories of who we are, where we came from, and where we're going? Now, I'm not coming down on either side of this, although I would consider myself to be more of the science level and have done some scientific research, so I'm going to kind of lean toward that direction, but I'm going to say this. I never see a problem in people asking why. That's the most natural thing that a kid does. Why is the sky blue?
Right.
Why does the sun shine? Why do I have 5 fingers and not 6 or 7? Why are my toes the way they are? Why do some people have arches and they don't? Now, we can answer that very scientifically. And, before I go any further, I should say...
Because apes do.
Aha! See, Dove's so clever. To interject those things in there. That's it. Intelligent design folks have very good marketing agents, because it's making this whole thing a controversy or theories. And you know what it really comes down to is what works and what doesn't. We do have ways of measuring certain things, but then there are other things we don't have ways of measuring. And do we discount one for the other? Do we stamp one out over another? Well, maybe we do. And, I'm one who always says if an orange is an orange, it's probably an orange, not a rhinoceros. You could call it a rhinoceros if you want to, but you may be in a crowd by yourself because it's tested to be an orange. Now, why is it an orange? Because we collectively agree that it's an orange. We've tested it, and it's an orange. By name, by concept, by smell, by taste, by roundness. It's an orange. We called it arbitrarily an orange. We could have called it something else.
Right. Scientists have agreed that the Earth is, 6.4 billion years old?
Exactly.
Years old. That they pretty much agree on that, and not 6,000.
And there are those who do. Because they feel that the information they've been given in accordance to their faith might not be able to accept the 6.2 to 4 billion. And I say, I never see any problem in what one's faith expresses versus what one's science expresses, because I tend to think of them as having a symbiotic relationship. And the reason I say that is that we cannot inhale without eventually exhaling. We do not have up without down or left without right, except a pointillism in an empirical space. So I don't see why we can't look at all of this as a symbiotic relationship. Now, what can we teach in the classroom? We can teach the symbiotic relationship of our beliefs combined with our science, which equals what we know. That's the equation I kind of like to live by. That way, my faith is never incongruent with my science. I've never seen any controversy between them. Probably because I'm not playing with my big head.
And then there's people, and this was discussed in the film A Flock of Dodos, that there are people who, of course, have different views about what should be taught in the classroom, but there's some who say that the controversy should be taught in the classroom, that they should just teach both, give both sides, and let the students explore and do their own research. And some people are for that, some people are against that. What do we think about that?
Well, here's the thing. We have a separation of church and state. Intelligent design has been dressed up and put on very nice makeup, but it really basically comes down.
That someone in the movie said that it was basically creationism repackaged.
Yes, it is. It is.
Intelligent design. That was the word of someone in the film.
What you can talk about in the classroom is what we don't know. Belief combined with our ability to test, measure, explore, examine equals what we know. What we don't know is what's called faith. If we continue to believe in it, even though we don't know it, it's faith.
Yeah, you can't really measure it.
But every day things change. Every day we learn more. We experience more. And more of what we learn and what we know tends to not be out of sorts with our faith, but tends to be congruent with our faith. So why not have a classroom discussion about what we know, what we think we might know, and how to test to make it real? And that is called science. And that's okay. Once upon a time, we couldn't measure the wind. Once upon a time, microwaves were something we couldn't measure, didn't know about. Once upon a time, we couldn't harness electricity. We were fascinated by lightning, we were fascinated by static, but we didn't know what to do with it. So all of what was once mysterious and mystified becomes clearer and concise through exploration, through asking questions, through testing, through examination. And that is science. And we should have fun with that. And I don't see that being incongruent with faith or incongruent with Darwin. Personally, I like the idea that I once upon a time swam very well. I swim okay now, but I think it's cool that I probably swam better at some point. But personally, I also like opposable thumbs.
Right.
They're really neat. My dog in particular likes the fact that I have opposable thumbs because then I can give him treats.
Right,
so,
but then there's people who don't want to believe that we were once apes.
And that's fine if they don't want to believe it, because that's belief. But not science.
But the science is that that 92% of our DNA matches with theirs. That is fact.
There you go. Well, every person, we got 30,000 genes in that DNA, and maybe what variates us by hair, skin color, shape of your eyes is 4 to 6. 4 to 6. And look how many times we separate each other by the way we look, by what our hair looks like, how tall we are, or short we are.
Yeah, and everything about our appearance is based on a very few genes.
I mean, I tend to think of us as wonderfully wrapped Christmas presents. You know? And inside is the true gift. And who would sit down at a wonderful display of gifts and begin to reject the gifts on the basis of the wrapping paper? That sounds a little odd to me. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't pick up a box and say, I'm not going to open that because I don't like the wrapping paper. There may be something spectacular inside of it, but I'm not going to examine it because I don't like the wrapping paper. Well, that's what we do. When we start separating each other on the basis of these things that really come down to 4-6 genes out of 30,000. That's what we do every time we start splitting hairs about whether or not we were crawling fish and apes versus whether or not we're intelligently designed. We are very intelligently designed when we embrace each other and explore the unknown.
Exactly, and for those who are unsure on the definition of intelligent design, in the film, intelligent design, the theory, the idea behind it is that the world, everything is just so complicated, and everything works with its little intricacies like a little machine, and it's so intricate and complex that that there must be a designer behind it, that there must be some intelligent designer behind everything, and they use a mountain as an example. Someone would say, oh, a mountain got there because of tectonic plates and erosion and everything, and someone else might say that oh, but it might be designed by someone.
Mm-hmm. A higher intelligence, greater and more wiser than you.
And then they show Mount Rushmore, which was clearly man-made. The faces
not the rock,
were clearly,
but the carving.
Right, not the rock, but the carving. So and then the debate goes. So that's intelligent design versus evolution.
In its simplicity.
And yeah, that's the simplest way.
Really simplistic.
And
that's
really simplistic.
As I always suggest, people go out and look around, Google some things, read some things, debate this with your friends, colleagues over coffee. Some of you may figure there's nothing to debate, and that's great too. But I know one thing. We need to stop fighting over all that crazy stuff because, bottom line is, we can't really change it.
Right.
All we can do is explore and examine. What we can make a difference in is our ability to embrace each other for our different views and still enjoy who we are. And that's something that makes America, the United States in particular, unique in that we can share those views without somebody beating down our door and saying, don't think like that. At least we think we can. And we're fine with that. And we should embrace that because that's what makes us special. I don't want to fight with somebody over that. And I want my school district and my teachers to feel that they are able to teach children to explore the sciences. There are so many cutting edge evolutionary things happening in science right now. And we need to explore every avenue as frequently as we can and have our next generation as enthusiastic about it as we can get them. And that means starting early, starting young, helping them out. Okay, if science wasn't your best subject, look, you could always get a little baking soda and a little vinegar and blow up something in the kitchen and make a big mess, right? That's always a big hit. A little baking soda, a little vinegar, boom, you got your own volcano. It's great. Start there. Don't be afraid to go on the internet, find some homemade science experiments. Don't be afraid to crack open a book and look at a word you've never seen before and teach it to your kid.
Right, and we should promote that to the kids. I definitely don't think that either topic should stop being discussed in it, but there is the separation of church and state in the schools, of course, and that evolution should still be taught because that probably has more scientific backing.
It's got a lot of science on that.
It's got a lot of science on that.
Got a lot of science on that, and we should talk about that.
We've got a lot of facts on that. But they should also know about other theories. But
and do that at home.
And do that at home. Yeah,
do
that at home.
That's what home is for.
Have them do their own research and And talk about it with your kids.
People need to sit back down, gather around the dinner table, and gather
around some sandwiches, a snack, something.
Yeah, get something. Everybody get together, sit around, and
discuss
talk
it over
about
family
your day.
game night, or
yes. Whip out some books, discuss some things, whip out your spiritual books and guidance, talk to your children. And do it early. Do it when they're young. Don't suddenly expect that they're going to have an epiphany in their teen years and suddenly figure out everything about the beliefs and teachings you failed to raise them with. Start at the beginning. Do not sequester them away in the back room in the daycare center of your church or synagogue or faith chapel. Make sure that your children are involved and they know and that they understand where your beliefs come from and they understand your sacred writings and that they understand where and why.
But also give them fuel for their imaginations.
Exactly. Allow them to explore. Allow them to question. I know. Allow them to question. Oh my gosh. Yes, allow them to question, because only a person who is able to question and get answers can be truly full of faith and also be a great scientist. And you can balance them both. It doesn't have to be this issue of giving up one for the other. Both can live in harmony.
and the dog is now licking
the
Falcon all over the place. Prince is here. Welcome to the Falcon and the Dove and the Prince.
And the doggy named Prince. Yes.
Our black lab who wants to be a part of the show again.
Absolutely. And that's another thing. Get a pet. If you can. If you have allergies, I totally understand. They actually have those Robo Pets now. Didn't you hear something today, Dove, about Robo Pets?
Yes, I did hear something. Going to another discussion about Robo Pets. That this started getting really explored in 1999. Sony did something with Robo Pets that before they just did real simple tricks like sitting or wagging their tail and picking up a biscuit or something, but now that they've come back and they're trying to make them do more sophisticated actions, more sensors in themselves so that they can sense their environment more. They get to know their master the longer they're with them, which is pretty cool. And so that's what they're calling these Robo Pets. But that's pretty cool. They didn't say anything in the article about buying them anytime soon, but just exploring that, and that's pretty cool. That would be especially cool for people who can't have pets, that they could have a Robo Pet. There's people who have a pet rock, and that this would be something, not a replacement, but a pretty good substitute, if you will.
Fun and interactive.
Fun and interactive, yeah. As long as it's fun and shares the same characteristics as a cat or dog. So that's pretty cool of Sony and
fish,
everyone else who's doing their research.
Lizards, spiders.
Exactly. Okay, I don't think we talked about this in the last episode. Teen sleeplessness leads to falling grades.
Oh, yes.
This was on MSN Health and Fitness.
Teens need a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
More sleep than parents. I hate to tell you that your kid is not odd. They're tired.
Teens need more sleep than infants.
Yep.
It's been proven.
They need more rest.
Study finds more evidence that poor rest habits lower grade point averages. Yes, it's true.
Yeah, it's true.
The article says, Sleepless Nights can leave their mark on teens' report cards, a new study finds. Researchers from the University of Colorado School of Medicine analyzed 238 surveys filled out by middle school and high school students. The findings showed that students with lower grade point averages were more likely to have restless, aching legs when they were trying to fall asleep, difficulty concentrating during the day, snoring every night, difficulty waking up in the morning, daytime sleepiness, and problems with falling asleep in class. The study was published in the February 1st issue of the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine. All right,
Doesn't
it has
surprise
a bunch of facts down here. Here's some sleep tips for teens. courtesy of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine. Get a full night's sleep on a regular basis. Don't.
Right.
Now,
Yeah. Here's how you do that.
Got a bunch of tips on
First
here.
of all, don't overschedule. I know. Sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? We don't know any kids that are overscheduled. Yeah. Yeah. You included. You just have to sometimes take some time off and sit back and say, okay, you know what? You're not getting enough rest. And make sure that they're getting a good solid 8-9 hours a night.
Teens are so overworked.
I know they've got too much
they're
homework.
Overworked and overstressed. That they've got too much homework. Their backpacks are heavy as heck.
Well, you've got to be a weightlifter to lift those backpacks, and it's just too much. You got the plays, the musicals, the sports, everything, just all the clubs and everything. And of course, if you don't do all of that, then you won't get into the best schools. You've got to be overachieving. You've got to be nuclear overachieving.
Yes.
And
because there's so much more pressure on kids to do well in those standardized tests, which don't really mean much, by the way.
You know what?
And I'm not just saying that because I'm a teenager, all right?
Some universities are already saying, these not so important anymore.
Right, and some people just aren't very good test takers. That doesn't mean they're less intelligent than other students who might get a perfect score on the SAT.
And besides, if you spend a couple grand, you can figure out how to beat the test. And the kids who don't have a couple grand to spend probably won't be doing as well. But does that mean that they aren't as intelligent? Of course not.
So it's kind of already flawed.
It's silly.
It's flawed. So
anyways, all these kids stressing over these tests and stressing over all this stuff, let them get some sleep. And no staying up all night on the weekends on a regular basis watching your 50th episode rerun of Star Trek. Okay? You've seen it before. It's going to be on again.
We have nothing against Star Trek, by the way.
No. My best friend's a Trekkie, so...
Right,
I cannot say anything evil or bad about Star Trek.
Let's just skip right to the end about proactive tips for teens. If you're having trouble staying active during the day, here's what the article says, and we'll see if we can add our own. Says, first, get a full night's sleep on a regular basis. Don't stay up late doing homework or studying for an exam. If you're not asleep within 20 minutes after going to bed, get up and do something relaxing, such as reading a book or listening to music until you're tired enough to go back to bed. That's actually a good one. Get up at the same time every morning. Try not to take naps after school. If you feel you have to, don't nap for more than 1 hour. Keep a regular schedule. Don't read, write, eat, watch TV, talk on the phone, or play cards in bed. Don't have any caffeine after lunch. I don't know about that one.
Right.
Yeah.
You hear that, kids? No caffeine after your lunch period.
That would be pretty hard to implement.
I'm wondering how many of you are going to do that. How many adults could go caffeineless after lunch for the rest of the day?
I could see that no caffeine after dinner. That would be fair, but after lunch,
it's just destimulating you. These are people who are having trouble getting enough sleep.
Right.
So.
Right. Again, and your bedroom should be quiet, dark, and a bit cool. And you're much more likely to fall asleep if you're a little cool, not cold, but cool, and not hot and sweaty. Don't go to bed hungry, but don't eat a big meal just before bedtime. And don't do any vigorous exercise within 6 hours of your bedtime.
Again, another one that's not terribly realistic. If you have a late sporting event, late basketball game, you're going to come home, you're going to shower, you're going to do a little homework and try to go to bed. That's going to be pretty difficult to achieve.
Most of these tips are pretty good.
But most of them are reasonable and achievable if the proper planning is put in place. Some of them, especially if you're an athlete, that's going to be difficult to accomplish. But do your best, and then maybe you'll do your best on those tests the next day. Let's face it, you're cramming. People like to cram. I'm going to stay up all day. I'm going to study for this test. And then you get to the test, and your eyes are just falling out of your head. Your face is becoming one with the desktop. That's not good.
That's not good.
So
if you're completely out of it and you're trying to do your homework and you're just not getting it done, stop for a minute to eat a snack or something, and just take a break to get away for it, and not long, but just enough to clear your head and come back later with fresh eyes.
I know it's not cool to say this, but it is occasionally okay to say, you know what, I'm overwhelmed. I've got too many responsibilities, too much to do, and I've got to do this homework too. Don't be afraid to go to your teacher. Teachers, I'm talking to you. Be receptive. Don't be afraid to go to your teacher and say, you know what, I was overwhelmed. I had all these things to do yesterday, run through the list, and maybe you've got a job.
Right,
maybe you've got to take care of a parent.
Especially if you're going through a tough time.
Yeah.
A tough time personally.
I would have been up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing your homework assignment. I didn't get it done. Can I have another day? Or if this is a longer structured assignment, can I turn this in next week? Or whatever. But don't be afraid to talk to your teachers. And teachers, you listen and be fair. And really evaluate each student's circumstance. Because the key here is that we want kids to be educated, intelligent, and responsible, and we also want them to do well.
We don't want them to be big memorizing machines so that they can just spiel out everything that they just crammed in. We want
and not
them
retain it.
And not retain anything just for the test. We want them to learn them. And you also don't want to use any of that tiredness as an excuse either. But there has to be a balance, and that's the goal.
Yeah,
to find a balance. But communicate with your parents, communicate with your teachers. Don't be afraid to ask for an extension. Some teachers are real open about that. See what you can do.
Yep,
and
really key.
Get plenty of sleep too. Get plenty of sleep.
Try. Work on it. It's a lifestyle change, I know that.
Yes, try. Yeah, but this will help in your time management, and that'll prepare you for college. So it's all good with that. So work out a schedule that works, so that you're not racing to each and everything. You want to go at a nice, easy pace with a daily schedule.
And if something's got to go, something's got to go. But I'm going to tell you a secret here. It shouldn't always be what you want to do. Sometimes it should be some of those, quote, obligations, unquote. Sometimes you need to tell people, you know what, I've got too much on my plate. And if
Know your limits.
Playing soccer is really important to you, but you've got all these other things you've got to take care of, a lot of them for other people. You need to put your foot down and say, well, you know what, soccer's really important to me, but I can't pick up little sis every single day after school. Maybe somebody else needs to help me out with that. Don't be afraid to have that discussion.
Right, so know your limits, get plenty of sleep, be organized, and communicate.
Yeah. Good job, Dove.
Thank you. And our next topic, you know this pretty well.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Harvard, poised to name first female president.
Now, obviously, by the time this podcast is going to be out, we may know whether or not Harvard has, in fact, appointed Faust. Is that her name?
Yes, Drew Gilpin Faust.
Faust.
I'm saying that right?
That would be wonderful. She has excellent credentials. And,
yes, in its 371-year history, Harvard University has been led by Puritans and Patriots, by clergymen and congressmen. But so far, the country's oldest and wealthiest university has never been led by a woman. This is MSNBC's article, but it seems likely to change.
And, I think part of the reason why she is being considered at this point, at this juncture, for Harvard, certainly goes back to behavior and reactions of President Sumner, who has left. Yay! And I'm looking forward to seeing who Harvard appoints. If it isn't Faust and it's someone else, I hope that it's someone who is going to take Harvard and its prestigious history forward in a progressive manner to benefit its students as well as the larger society and world with which we all serve. If you don't know why Sumner had to resign last year, it was principally because the man had a very interesting theory on issues involving women, minorities, and science.
Right. He said that natural ability may be partly to explain why fewer women achieve top-tier science jobs.
Right.
Basically.
He basically said it wasn't a glass ceiling, it was concrete. Principally because, well, just women and minorities don't necessarily do as well in science, which, of course, is crap. But at the time that he made these comments, he was at a conference, and you know, everybody thought he had lost his mind. He didn't necessarily present any lucid scientific research to support that. But here's my lucid scientific research to rebut it. Thousands and thousands and thousands of years of women in indigenous cultures, cooking, cleaning, planting, agriculture, 80% of which came from the Americas long before any European ever got here, or Harvard. Lots and lots of growing, planting, arranging laundry, painting, processing, raising men, which that in and of itself is a job. And yes, most of those were all done by major focal cultures, and all before even the rise of, you know, Rome, Greek, the Byzantines. You know, it's amazing, the history of this planet, and women and science, and minorities in science. The accomplishments are endless. You know, instead of the character Imhotep being this bad guy in mummy movies, he was actually the father of modern medicine in ancient imperialist Egypt.
Well, that's another discussion.
And that's a whole nother discussion. But apparently Sumner hadn't done his history and wasn't really familiar, even in those scholarly hallowed halls, about the plethora of accomplishments that have been done over generations by women and minorities in science. It's not what you can measure by your lab coat, buddy. There's a whole lot of other science out there to be measured, and contributions that are priceless. So whomever Harvard puts forward in those hallowed halls, I hope, are individuals or individual who can bring prestige forward for the university and to help the students, regardless of their gender or ethnicity, to achieve their highest and best principles and possibilities. That's all I have to say about that one.
Carol Christ, president of Smith College, a prominent women's college in western Massachusetts, said, "It's a little like having a woman president of the United States. It's a very public symbol of the progress women have made in being seen as equal candidates for the highest leadership positions."
And this would not be the first Ivy with a woman president, by the way. Several do. Penn does.
Which is great.
And which is great, yes, which is great. I believe Cambridge does. There were a couple others down there that were listed as well. So, a lot of prestigious universities in this country and beyond have women presidents, and Harvard would be joining great company.
Yes, male dominance of college presidencies is ebbing. That's what it says at the bottom here.
On the ebb and flow. So we'll see, yes. So we'll see what happens, and by next week we'll maybe have a different subject to talk about.
Yes, Cambridge is on here. University of Michigan and University of Cambridge are led by women.
Yes.
MIT.
MIT, yeah, that's right. I did hear that recently.
Right.
So very good. You know, there's some big minds there. Big minds, MIT. So.
Oh, yes, discussing black holes. And oh, yes, we need to have a black hole discussion on here. Discuss Stephen Hawking. And,
wow.
We
boy, that's complicated.
Oh, we had a discussion
big words on that one.
After what was it, National Geographic or the Science Channel Special that called the Hawking Paradox. We had a real good discussion after that. We should have recorded that one. Whew, that was a good one.
We promise we won't take too many $50 words out, okay? We'll try to continue to make this as approachable
really
as possible.
All right. So we did that.
So good luck to her.
Good luck to her.
Not just because she's a woman, but because she's brilliant.
All right, let's talk about this. $14 million was given to an exonerated ex-inmate.
Who had been on death row.
Death row for 18 years. wow, this is also MSNBC. Says a federal jury awarded $14 million Friday to a former death row inmate who came within weeks of execution but was exonerated. John Thompson, 40, maintained through 18 years in prison that he was innocent of killing hotel executive Ray Liuzza, 34, during a robbery in December 1984. But in 1999, weeks before Thompson was to die, a defense investigator found a crime lab report that cleared him of the robbery charge. The blood type of the robber found on the victim's pants did not match Thompson's. A judge sentenced Thompson to live in prison without parole, but the murder conviction stood until a state appeals court overturned it and ordered a new trial. Thompson was found not guilty in the retrial. Jurors in the civil trial ordered the Orleans Parish and several current and former prosecutors to pay Thompson, said Gordon Cooney. Along with fellow attorney Michael Banks, Cooney worked 14 years to have Thompson retried and acquitted.
Wow.
$14 million. He spent 18 years in prison.
Well, that may open a door, won't it? Because how many people, and maybe it was because it was a death row case, and how many people are sitting in jail right now,
right,
who
haven't
not
committed
guilty,
a crime, who are not guilty,
and have not been given the opportunity to access labs and DNA, etc. So this is what I mean by science. You know what I want? I want 500,000 more scientists to graduate from colleges in the next 10 years who can work in forensic labs and in epidemiology and help NIH and CDC. That's what I want. Here's my big Christmas list. I want scientists who can help labs so that we can get real criminals in jail and those who are innocent out of jail. Because what's going to happen here is now we're going to have all this litigation, and how many millions of dollars in taxpayer money is going to go to rightly compensate this gentleman? Because how do you give him his life back?
Exactly.
How do you give him his life back? What would he have earned had he been allowed to continue his life? He hasn't been with his wife or children. I don't know what his marital status is.
18 years is a long time.
18 years is a long time. And we've had local cases like this.
This happened in 1984, and he was innocent.
And
he was innocent of killing someone, and he didn't even do it.
I wonder.
And this happens all the time.
Yeah. What do you do? What do you do? And if we're willing to spend all that money to prosecute, it should be prosecuting the right people, which means we need to have as many scientists and lab technicians on every level.
Right, don't get us wrong. We know how difficult it is to find the right person. Well, we respect that totally.
Yeah, and that means we need more people to do it with. And I'm willing to let my tax dollars go to having more police, more investigators, more forensic pathologists, the people that we need, the support personnel that we need to make sure that the criminals are in fact in jail and serving their time as they should, that the people who are innocent not be in jail with their lives wasting away and the quality of their families and their future disintegrating before their very eyes because they were railroaded by aggressive prosecution or simply by shoddy defense work.
Right. We want our money to go towards finding justice for the people who actually committed the crimes, not letting our money go towards incarcerating innocent people.
Right. As long as we have justice for those individuals who have been wronged and those who are guilty, and I know that's a tough job.
Right, we know it's not a perfect
that's the goal.
System. we know it's not a perfect system, but we want to get it as close to perfect as we can.
Isn't that still the goal? Is it still the goal?
Justice versus injustice.
Exactly. Isn't the goal to still find guilty people and not just railroad not guilty ones because it's convenient for our career? And we all know there's some very gray areas going on out there. But the point is, if we have more researchers, more technicians, more scientists, more police officers, more investigators, then we're going to be able to do that. How do we pay for it? Well, instead of sending billions and billions of dollars to places we have no business in, maybe we should spend some of that money domestically at home, helping out our cities and townships with money that, if I could rewrite the federal budget right now, I would fund PBS and NPR and public radio rather than spending billions of dollars someplace else where we started a fight we can't finish. Was that out loud? But that's what I would do. That's just my personal opinion. I think more of our federal dollars need to be spent at home and taking care of our own. More money should be spent in VA and VA hospitals, not creating circumstances that are going to put more of our men and women at risk. Sorry, that was out loud, but I said it now, and I feel much better.
All right, I guess we'll end the podcast with a more lighthearted topic. Sort of. There's some pros and cons of this issue. Infiniti has released a well, I don't know about release, but I'm not sure if it's done yet. But they've designed this new car called the G Sedan that changes color in different light.
Oh yeah, the car mood ring or whatever.
It changes colors. The ones I saw on the website were a nice dark red and silver and blue, but the hue and the saturation and of it changed. It was an interactive site where you could click on different things and what each color means. They really researched this about what each color evokes a certain emotion in someone, and they did this with the inside too, and the outside changes color in different light. In daylight it's one color, at nighttime it's a different color. Now I say, at face value, this looks extremely cool. This looks really cool and really fun. You can have a whole bunch of different colors and different light, and it maximizes the edges of the car so that you can see it better at nighttime, and so that it has a different expression. Infiniti calls it. So this is pretty cool.
So the first thing, what does Falcon think, right?
Let's talk about the pros and cons of this.
Yeah, first thing I thought of was, that'd be the first car any criminal is going to go out and get. What color was the car? It was green, it was blue. It was green, it was blue. Can you see that one? Or, what was that old Moody Blues song? Days of Future Past, Nights in White Satin, the poem Late Lament, where the guy says, he's talking about...
Red is gray and yellow white.
Red is gray and yellow white, but we decide which is right and which is an illusion. Yes, because he was talking about the difference of day and night.
Because, yes, when you look at a red car at nighttime, it does look gray, and yellow looks white at nighttime. That's basically what it means.
Exactly. So now we're going to have a car that changes color depending on, do you have argon light or fluorescent light? Is the moon out? Isn't it? That may sound really exciting until you think about trying to identify that vehicle to a criminal. Just simply tell the police, oh, a new Infiniti car, go get it! If it changes color before your very eyes, that's them!
Exactly. Police will have a field day with that one, because then if you've got the model and make of the car, then great. Then at least they know that it changes colors. But now they're going to be, the color is going to be completely meaningless, which is the first identifiable feature of a car. Now people are going to be more pressured to get the license plate, but really the license plate is going to be the only proof and forensic evidence, of course, that anyone committed a crime with that car or used it as a getaway vehicle. But the color is the first identifiable feature of a car, and it's really cool, but it could be dangerous if put into the wrong hands, shall we say?
Do we need a mood ring car? Do we need a mood ring car? I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know if it's a mood ring car. I just know it changes in different light. But
come on. That car that changes colors. What is this? Come on. You know,
that'd be cool if police could like maybe if they had these special sensors in the car that were like if someone committed a crime and took off with the car, maybe the police could flip a switch and make sure that the car stays on the same color until they catch them.
Well, you know,
that would be cool if you could do that.
if you've got a navigation system, they're already going to know where you're at.
Right, and if the car comes with a navigation system, which I would assume that it would, as an optional feature at least, if it had a navigation system on, you're already on GPS, they're gonna find you.
They're gonna find you.
So that's pretty good. That might make up for that.
I got an idea. While they're busy playing around with the paint and different colors and changing the light and refraction, etc. and so forth, why don't they put like little dots inside the paint that can actually detect the uniqueness of the vehicle, like its VIN number in the paint, so that you could like scan the car and automatically get its VIN number with a special device just because you got it. You'll know that the car is stolen or been resold after it was flooded, or see what you can do with science. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's very cool.
It's amazing. So yeah, I think that's a great car. If there were no criminals in the world, then it would be perfect.
You guys go, I'm gonna steal that car, man. That car is gonna be green one minute and purple the next. Yeah, right. Go out and steal a car.
Now, if we are completely wrong on this, Infiniti, please write to us. But that's what I gathered from MSN's website on this, which was very interactive. In fact, it looked like Infiniti's personal website. But if we're completely wrong in this, and the way it changes color is completely different than the way that we've described, please email us. But that's what we gathered from the website, and it was pretty described pretty well. And they said that it changes in different light, and I don't think it changes with your mood, but it played up the fact that each color evokes a certain mood, and I'm not sure if the inside changes color, but it mentioned something like that. So check it out.
Fascinating.
Check it out. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, remember those t-shirts they had that they were one color, but if you put your hand on them, they were heat sensitive and they would change to a different color?
No, I don't know about those shirts.
Oh, yeah. That was back in my day.
Oh, I never saw those shirts.
Photosensitive shirts that were also heat sensitive that changed different colors.
Teens today would love those shirts. What happened to them?
I should bring them back. That's how I'll make my millions. Yes! I'll bring back those silly shirts. They'll be popular for about a week and then they'll pass, and you know.
Well, what
I'll be stuck with a whole closet full of those shirts and boxes.
They're putting little tiny cameras on outfits now. Scientists are doing that to make invisibility cloaks.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The illusion of being invisible. There it is, the cloaking device.
Yes, let's talk about that briefly. We'll save the whole discussion for another episode. But basically, the concept of an invisibility cloak or clothing, the concept is you have a camera. You have a camera record the wall or background behind you, and it shows up on a monitor on the computer screen with the background, and you see the background. So basically, scientists have taken a whole bunch of these little tiny cameras and monitors so that they can show the background behind you and then project it to the front of you so that all over you it looks like the background. so that in theory you look invisible. It's been tested. It works. I've seen some video of it. It looks really cool. So that's
what we
cool.
need. Cloaked weapons. Just like the Klingons.
Right now they're just using
this is not good.
Right now they're just using it for government purposes, and they might use it for military uniforms.
Yeah. Like I said, scary somewhat.
Military uniforms.
And of course, we're going to use those in the war games. I don't know. I think if I had an invisibility cloak, I don't know what I would do with it. Maybe I'd use it to sneak into a spa. No, just kidding.
Sneak into concerts.
One with a big tub.
Do what Daniel Radcliffe said he'd do with it. He
said he'd sneak into concerts.
He said he'd sneak into concerts.
Yeah. Yeah. He said he would not sneak into girls' locker rooms or anything like that. He'd sneak into concerts.
No.
That's yeah.
Okay, what?
Not that anyone has ever snuck into a concert, right?
No. Oh, yeah, people do that when they're completely visible.
Yeah, this is true. Trying to be invisible and hope they don't get caught. For the good old days. Anyway, that's wrapping it up.
I guess we'll finish with the quote of the week.
Yes.
And I'm looking at my quote widget on here, and that's a perfectly good quote. So let's use that from our old buddy Ralph Waldo Emerson. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm.
That's right.
Of course, and that's very fundamental. And should all be enthusiastic about our goals. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, very good person.
And if we don't have any goals yet, find some.
Yes, yes, everyone should have goals. Yes.
Find something fun, positive. Do some good, and stop fussing. Stop complaining. Find something positive to do. Do something great. Make a difference in a person's life.
Well, we hope you all enjoyed this episode. It was kind of a down week, but we found some high topics, and we'll see what happens next week. And give us your feedback. Eventually, there will be a feedback form on the page where you can just fill out a simple form and give us your feedback right there. Or you can email us at falcondove, that's FALCONDOVE @arayasimmons.com.
That's AREYSIMMONS.com.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We love you.
Thank you. We love you.
Have a great week. Be safe. Be secure. Be blessed. Peace.
All right. See you next week.